3 messages. It's costly. You better know what you want to get into. You've got to be ready to give it all up. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So in the church, we talk a lot about membership. And often when I'm in the community and people ask me about St. Gregory's and they don't know about our church, one of the first questions they ask is, how many members do you have? And depending on what their expectation is, when I tell them how many members we have, sometimes it's like, oh, that's impressive kind of look, or sometimes it's, oh, that's not very big. But, the membership number is important. And I have to confess that when I look at the records every Sunday about who is in church, I take very careful attention to how many people were in church. So I look at those numbers all the time. But I say all of this because Jesus is never interested in membership. He doesn't count numbers. He doesn't emphasize the word. He doesn't even use the word membership. Rather, he uses the word discipleship. And in today's gospel, we have Jesus opening up and drawing great crowds. And instead of how the world often responds, hey, Jesus, you're doing pretty good, look at these big crowds, or Jesus saying, wow, we're doing great today, big numbers in church, that's not what we hear. Instead, it almost as if that Jesus is sort of challenging that kind of mentality and begins by saying, if anyone wants to be my follower, he has to hate his father, his mother, his brothers, his children, and so on. And unless you hate all of that, life itself even, you cannot be my disciple. Yeah, exactly. So I get people laughing already, and I'm laughing too. Whoa! Now, Jesus' language is uncompromising, radical, arresting, maybe even a little harsh. We might even use that word. So what's he about with all of this? Now, the first thing to say is, and it's one of these comments I'm about to make where I have to say, Jesus, if I got this wrong when I get to heaven, I will confess I got it wrong. But I do not believe Jesus wants us to hate father, mother, brother, sister, children, and so on. What I do believe is that he's using what I would say hyperbole with a purpose. Now, Jesus does this at times. You might remember in another place he says, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Hyperbole with a purpose. He uses language that is so uncompromising and radical and arresting. It kind of snaps your neck and says, what did he say? And it cuts through our resistance and our indifference to really not be tuned in. So he's got our attention by saying this language, hate father, mother, sister. So what is he getting at? What I would say is that Jesus is saying your relationship with God has to be at the center of loving God and loving neighbor and letting that primary first relationship, you and God, God and you, let that be at the center of your life. And when you're rooted in that relationship of love, it then orders in a holy and good way all the other relationships. You follow what I'm saying? If you get God right and that relationship with God right, it then flows into your relationship with your spouse, with your brothers and sisters, with your children, with your neighbors, with life itself. If you don't get that relationship right, then something else is substituting for God. That's what I see so many of us do with our relationship with God. In the sense is that we bring God in when we want God to come in. Oh God, I'm really hurting right now. Someone who really means a lot to me is really hurting. I need you now, God. Be there for me. Okay, got past that crisis. Go back to my life again. And and God, go back in the corner. And when I need you again, I'll draw you out. In other words, we look at God as a resource that we can draw upon at times of need, but the rest of the time, hey, God, we're good. We don't need you. You know, and that's when we don't have the priority and ordering right. And that's what Jesus is getting at. Discipleship is costly. It means that we have to really look at some of the patterns and priorities in our life and maybe take a hard look and say, something's got to give. Something's got to change. Something's got to die. Now, another way of getting at this challenge that Jesus is giving us is to ask yourself a series of questions. You know, is your relationship with God truly shaping your relationship with your spouse? Yes or no? Is your relationship with God and God's love shaping your attitudes in your relationship with your brothers and sisters? Is your relationship with God and God's love shaping and informing your relationship with your children? Is your relationship with God and God's love shaping and informing your relationship with your co-workers, the neighbors, those you encounter on a daily basis? Is your relationship and love of God shaping all your interactions of all your life? Jesus just isn't satisfied with a kind of superficiality of relationship. Discipleship, if you want to be my follower, means it's a formation and a transformation of mind and heart and spirit. It's shaping and informing and flowing through all our life and all our commitments, all our relationships. That's what Jesus is getting at. And it is costly because it challenges us when we put substitutes or replacements in for that primary relationship with God. Now I want to say one more word about this first message, discipleship costly. Jesus adds after that, hey, father, mother, sister, brother language. He says, if anyone isn't prepared to take up their cross, they can't be my disciple. Now, we associate the cross, of course, with that costly idea. Jesus gives up his life on the cross. It's costly. But there's another, of course, idea embedded in speaking about taking up your cross. And that is the cross of Christ for us represents God's redeeming, God's healing of our lives, taking what's broken and incomplete in our life and in the world's life, and through God's love in Jesus, making it whole. So there's also embedded in this promise that when we get the ordered relationship with God right, and then it flows through the rest of our lives, there's something healing and redemptive about that. You follow what I'm saying? That actually helps us to become, and helps our relationships to become what God wants them to be. Rooted and grounded and shaped by love. So there's the first message. Not membership, discipleship. Discipleship is costly, sacrificial. Now the second message is, so you better know what you're getting into. And Jesus illustrates this message by giving two little parable stories. What king, someone wanting to build a tower doesn't take account of what the cost is, and do you have enough to make the project come to completion? Good common sense thinking about, okay, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I need, do I have the resources and commitment to make it happen? And then to emphasize the point, tells another story. What king wanting to wage war with 10,000 doesn't think about, can he beat someone with 20,000 and so on. You got to know what you're getting into. So what Jesus is doing is then applying this, of course, to discipleship. He's not looking for, leap before you look disciples. In other words, it's kind of enthusiastic, yes, Lord, I'm ready to be a disciple. And then someone who says, wait a minute, on second thought, maybe I'll pass on this. He's looking for people who really say, okay, I've thought about this in mind and heart, and really I know this is what I want my life commitment to be. This is what I want my life to look like. This is what I desire. I desire to be in this relationship with God in Christ. And I want to explore that. Doesn't mean we know all the answers or have it all figured out, but I want to go on this journey in my life with Jesus. And I'm ready, and I'm willing to both risk the cost and count the cost. That's the kind of discipleship Jesus is looking for. So message 1, costly, sacrificial. Message 2, so you better know what you're getting into. Message 3 that Jesus gives, right at the end today. Uh-oh, here it comes. So, if you're not ready to give up all your possessions, you cannot be my disciple. I'm out. I am. I'm not joking. The preacher always preaches first to the preacher. I haven't given it all up, so I've just been excluded. Now let me take a big assumption as I look around the room today. Neither have you. So we're all in the same boat. Jesus basically just said, sorry, the door's closed on all of us. So, what do we do about this challenge? God help me. I always get worried at this point in the sermon. And I'm honest about this. I'm worried that I'm going to dilute the gospel. That I'm going to sort of soft pedal it first for me, and then soft pedal it all for you, and it's all going to be happy and hunky-dory, and we all go home and have our brother's breakfast. So, God help me, I don't want to dilute this. And so that's number 1. Number 2, we have to say there have been times in the Christian tradition where people have been uncompromising and saying, this is what Jesus said. Give up all your possessions, and once you do that, you can't be my disciple. Think of St. Francis. In a sense, the monastic movement in the Christian church has been an institutionalization within the church of Jesus' words. In other words, there's a group within our larger Christian family that have always said, you know what, we've got to set aside material possessions if we're really going to give ourselves fully to a life of discipleship and following Jesus. So in other words, there's always been an ongoing witness in the church that says, no ifs, ands, or buts, no dilution, no compromise. It's just the way it is. Jesus said it. That's what we got to do. Finally, we get to the rest of us, starting with me. What do we do with this? Here's some thoughts. First thought, let's not fool ourselves. Our material possessions do mean something to us. And those possessions can possess us. Now, just don't set aside what I just said. Oh yeah, I heard that, I know that. I mean, really recognize there is a tug in our life about what we have, what we don't have, and our feelings about that, and those feelings are strong. And if we can't acknowledge that, and at least say that's real, then we're stuck. So the first thing is, we should feel a little uncomfortable about this. That's the first thing. The second thing to say is that our material possessions are a gift from God. And we got to start there. They don't belong to us. We've been given them, we're stewards, as it were. It's entrusted to us. We've been blessed by it. We've been given something by God. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we using those possessions in a way that God would have us use them? In other words, are we using the gifts God has given us, and the way we're using them is reflective of who God is in our life and who God is in the world? first is about, recognizing the power this has over us. The second is to say, are we really, Lord, using what you've given me in a way that's bringing glory to you? So that's the second point. The third point is, again, I hope I'm not diluting this, is, and I've said this before, a life of generosity is a life of God. You just can't separate generous living and generosity from godly living and Jesus' discipleship. They just are inseparable. Jesus is all about always the self-offering, the self-giving, the taking what we have and blessing another. And so that dynamic of generosity is really at the heart of what it means to live a Christ-centered, Christ-discipleship life. So, that's how I get at it about discipleship and possessions. One last thought. Whenever we hear Jesus say, give up all your possessions, we should, as I've just been saying, think about material possessions. But for a moment, I want to even broaden it a little more and say spiritual possessions. In other words, the habits of heart and mind in our lives. What are some of those spiritual patterns that can possess us? Habits of anger. Habits of bitterness. Habits of, I can't let that go. Habits of insecurities and I'm not worthy. What are some of those habits of heart and mind that are part of our spiritual possessions that need to be set aside, put to death, in order for the new life to begin in us? The Christian life at its heart is always about death and resurrection and participating in this dynamic of what God needs to put aside and put to death in us that is not of God, that inhibits new life from flowing and filling and shaping our lives, and then allowing, therefore, resurrection to happen. That's just part and parcel of sharing in this Christian journey. Let me end by saying this. If, like me, you feel convicted by Jesus' words today, and by convicted I mean, gosh, I'm really being challenged in a fresh way by Jesus' words. Let me give you what I think are a few next steps for us. The first step is to recognize our need for grace. God help me. I need help to live this discipleship life. One of the wrong myths of our life is the way we celebrate the self-made man or woman. The person, I can do it on my own, and I celebrate that sense of, I did it my way, as Frank Sinatra sings. And there's something, particularly in America, that we kind of really resonate with that, we did it our way kind of thing. It's not the Christian life. Christian life is a recognition, a humble recognition, that this is really hard. And living this kind of selfless, generous, loving life takes God's help, God's grace. So I think we begin, at least I know I am, I'm starting with a fresh request for God's help and grace to live this discipleship life. The second step is actually something I would take from the 12-step recovery movement. It was one of the great spiritual movements of the 20th and 21st century, the AA recovery movement. And the people who are part of the 12-step movement know this, that you've got to work the steps, that it requires a kind of daily discipline to say, I need to work on this, and I need to work on it again, and I need to work on it again. So it's not just about saying today, okay, Lord, I'm ready to be a disciple. I've counted the cost. I know what I'm getting into. I'm ready to give up some things. No, we got to work on it. So it's grace and the daily discipline of grace would be the second thing. Third would be one of the gifts of our life is every day has the possibility of a new start. Today is the day for us to say, this is the life I want to lead, Lord. Now, as the poet says, seize the day. Take advantage of the grace that is being given to us at this very moment to say, yes, this is the kind of life, the kind of commitment I want to make. Having my life transformed, having the community's life transformed by the power of Jesus'